got the hits, the bangs, the blocks, and the spikes, 'cause all my rowdy friends drop in on Monday nights. Let it fly, boys.
What is up, Homer Maniacs? And we are live from the B.F. Evans Studios for a brand new edition of The Homer Show, brought to you by Darrell Vanover's Greater Owensboro Realty, the #1 realtor on the 270 depth chart. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, contact Darrell by phone or text. Give him a call at 270-315-0354. I am Stephen A. Turner, joined tonight by Mr. Brandon Ward.
Gorilla style.
And Mr. David Clark.
Tell you what, the weather has turned cold, and you look up and all of a sudden it's regional championship Friday coming up on the Homers Radio Network. I just can't believe it, Stephen A.
And then there was one, Dave.
That's right.
We'll talk about that on this program. But we're going to start off the show, and we can break it down, but nobody could really break it down better than the victorious coach of the Owensboro Red Devils this past Friday night, ending the 10-year streak of the Bowling Green Purples, is Coach Jay Fallon. Coach, welcome to the Homer Show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dave because this is his spotlight, man.
That's right. We sit there talking about, three of us can sit here and talk about this game. What better way to break it down than straight from the horse's mouth? And Coach, 10 years, 14 games. You finally got the purple monkey off your back. Just talk about what that means to you in the program.
It means a great deal, and now that we've had 48 hours to process it, even more. But one of those situations where we can't sit and revel in it for too long because we've got another great game against another great opponent coming up this Friday in South Warren. But it means a great deal, and I think just means so much more because so many guys made big contributions and stepped up in that game and made play after play that had to be made against a really good team. I think so often when one team is victorious over another, or when there's a run of success by one team over another, too often fans and media will ask, well, what's wrong? Why can't Owensboro beat Bowling Green? And sometimes aren't quick enough to give credit to the team that is successful. And Bowling Green's had some fantastic teams over the last 10 years. And we've been really close a few times, but just because of that, it's just meant a tremendous amount to our kids and the work that they've put in to get to this point and get a huge win. It means a great deal to us.
It never seemed, Coach, last Friday, it never seemed the moment was too big for the kids, and that just doesn't happen by accident. Talk about the preparation and the week leading up to the Bowling Green game and what it took for you guys to get over the hump there.
Well, you said the word there, preparation. Confidence comes from preparation. Everybody has been in a situation. This is how we try to explain it to the kids. We've all been in a situation, whether it was high school or college, where we sat down to take a test and we knew we weren't prepared for it. That's not a very good feeling. And the same comes from when you've really prepared and you sit down to take that test and you feel good about it. And the same goes into a Friday night. When you go into a Friday night, if you feel that you haven't done the work and you're not prepared, you're going to play that way. But when you've worked as hard as our kids have, particularly over the last 2 months, to be prepared, you're going to feel confident. And our guys went into it with the confidence that it takes to beat a good team.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Coach. And, the offense, right from the jump, you guys went straight down the field. I think there was a little bit of miscommunication there between Will and Trey on the route. But you guys could have got down, could have put your heads down. You bounce right back, get a big defensive stop, and the offense is going to work again. Talk about, I know Bowling Green has been known for that defense, flying to the football. You got Vito Tisdale, who's been offered by every major football program in the country. Talk about the offense and how effective they were against that Bowling Green defense.
Yeah, we moved the ball for over 400 yards against them. First time we've done that in my almost decade at OHS. And football in general, but particularly offensive football, you have to have a resilience, because against a good defense, you're not going to go out there and score every possession. And one of the things we kind of worried about as a staff, or kept in the back of our minds, at least down the stretch, is we were playing so well that we were beating teams. There was a stretch where we had a running clock several weeks in a row, and the starters were kind of on the sidelines in the second half. And we knew that we were going to come to a point against Bowling Green where we're going to have to play for 48 minutes. And they did that to their credit. You know, this group of guys has so wanted to win this game. We were so close back in September when we played them in the regular season. And they weren't going to quit. They weren't going to give up. They weren't going to go away.
Yeah, it seemed to me, Coach, you know, I was at the game in September, and you take that game, and now, and you guys have improved light years, and really more so than what you guys did on the defensive side of the ball. To me, the defensive performance against Bowling Green on Friday night was second to none, led by, in my opinion, you know, Diamond Glover. He played a phenomenal football game. Everybody did. The linebackers, the defensive backs, everybody did. But, boy, that defensive line really seemed to be in the backfield all night.
They did, and something we try to instill in our kids is assignments are crucial on defense, but nothing is more important than running to the ball. And if you can get 11 guys running to the ball, that's going to make up for a lot of mistakes. And that's something that, again, we've admired about what Bowling Green has done for years. Is Mark, who's the head coach now, was our defensive coordinator for years, does a great job of getting his kids to pursue the ball. And that's what it takes to be successful, and our kids really did a good job of that. They've done a good job of that since week 4. You know, something that I think was maybe forgotten early in the season is we're still kind of young on defense. Certainly we're at the beginning of the year. And those guys had to get some more experience, and they've got it now, and they're playing confidently, and they're playing aggressively and running to the ball. Another mark of a great defense, if you'll remember in 2015, we played Bowling Green in a regional final, and we were inside the red zone no less than 5 times and didn't come away with anything but field goals. That demoralizes a team when they get inside the red zone and they can't score. And I was proud of the way our guys did that on Friday night. A lot of teams, you know, they get the ball down. We had a 1st and goal. Bowling Green had a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line. It was 7-0 after we had an uncharacteristic turnover from Will in the backfield, and our guys kept them out of the end zone. I mean, that cannot be overstated, the importance of that. The fact that the defense believes that they've got 100 yards to defend, and we'll take you down to that last yard, and we're going to make you earn that last yard. And that's the type of defense that you got to be playing this time of year.
Yeah, no doubt. That was probably the most electrifying goal line stand that I've seen since the Madisonville playoff game just a couple of years ago. And, Coach, you know, you talked about turning the page and moving on, as you guys have already done that as a staff. You know, South Warren regional championship game, Bowling Green, Kentucky. The Spartans are undefeated this year, obviously led by the grandson of the Hall of Fame coach Steve Spurrier and Gavin Spurrier at quarterback. But they also got several other targets. You got Bush and the other running back whose name escapes me right now. You know, they're a very balanced offense, but defensively, they're led by Jacob Lacey, the Notre Dame commit. And, boy, look, you turn on film for about 2 seconds, and that guy really stands out.
He does, and, you know, Brandon, Coach Smith, does a great job. He's the son of Chuck Smith. Coached in Boyle County for years and coached linebackers at UK for a while, and Chuck always hung his hat on defense, and Brandon's no different. And they do kind of just what I was just talking about there just a minute ago. They pursue the football with a vengeance, and they do a great job on defense. But, yeah, Jacob Lacey, there's a reason he's going to play at Notre Dame. He's big, strong, athletic, and aggressive, and does a great job playing defensive line.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, you know, obviously with that offense, they have a lot of balance there at South Warren. You know, you think about Spurrier. You hear the name Spurrier, and you think about chucking the ball all over the field. But that South Warren team likes to run the ball quite a bit.
They're very effective in the running game and in the passing game, and they just don't make mistakes. You know, we talked about today with the team, there are only 8 teams left in 5A. So there are no bad teams left. That goes without saying. And South Warren is a very good football team, and they're very disciplined. That's what it takes to win this time of year is discipline, execution, knowing that every possession matters. And their kids, they're senior laden, got a huge class of seniors. They've been in this position before. They beat Bowling Green, of course, in a regional final last year before coming up against a really good Covington Catholic team. They've got a lot of experience in this situation, and they're going to come to play.
There's no doubt, Coach. And as before we get you out of here, you know, obviously I fully expect Red Devil Nation to travel in big numbers down the Parkway Friday night. You know, if you have one message for the fans that are going to be traveling down the Natcher this Friday, what would it be?
Well, you know, this group of kids, started the season strong, 2-0, huge win over Wrights over at the Bowl, and then stumbled a couple times. Tough loss to Owensboro Catholic over there, and then losing to Bowling Green in the regular season, which we've avenged now. And at 2-2, there were a lot of question marks, and we could have gone either direction. But to the credit of this group of kids and this group of coaches, they've come to work every single day since then, and then won 8 in a row, and just had as big a win as we've had in a long time, playing really good football. And if you could come to practice every day and see it, they practice with a desire to win, and they practice like champions, and they've earned the respect and the admiration and the support of the people who love Owensboro High School and love the tradition of excellence. Looks like the weather's going to be great on Friday. Looks like it's going to be, a high of 50. So hopefully, in the 40s at game time and dry, perfect playoff weather. So I hope that the Red Devil faithful will come out and support us next Friday, Friday, I should say.
Coach, I know your hopes will be realized, because I can tell you one thing. I don't guarantee a lot in life other than death and taxes, but the Red Devil Nation will be out in full force Friday night. And Coach, congratulations on your big victory over Bowling Green, and best of luck to you in the Class 5A Region 1 championship against South Warren.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, here he is, head coach Jay Fallon of the Owensboro Red Devils on the Greater Owensboro Realty Hotline. And I tell you right there, it's better than having us break the game down. There it is.
Yeah, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And I tell you, I started doing the homers because it's fun. I mean, really, and I really wanted to give the kids a bigger spotlight. And I'll say this, I have not had as much fun calling a game as I have in the booth on Friday night. It can only equal it. I mean, I've been there a handful of times getting to call games, but that was an absolute heavyweight contest, exactly what we expected it to be. And we'll flash it back to Friday night courtesy of Ann M's Cafe, which we already have a little bit. That's 802 North Main Street in Greenville, Kentucky, inside Uncle Lee's, home of the best burger in the 3rd region. It was Owensboro 28, Bowling Green 21, and it's the moredeals.com game of the week. And I had a blast, man. I mean,
it was fun.
From the get-go. I mean, I felt like I didn't breathe. I'm an Apollo guy. I have rallied around the kids that you get to know, and in different programs, McLean and Hancock and Breck and Owensboro, and I've kind of lived and breathed the Bowling Green Owensboro rivalry before the homers.
With your purple and gold shirt on now.
Listen, I didn't wear purple once last week. I'm a Vikings fan, and my whole winter wardrobe is purple.
Right.
So I didn't wear purple one time, and I thought, man, tonight I can break it out.
Sure. He was having to borrow winter clothes from people that he knew for Friday to wear to the game, because everything he's got's purple.
Well, in fairness, you could play it off on College View too. We're lucky College View Vikings.
That's true. No, but so I didn't wear purple, but man, I mean, I felt like there was a couple times, like Coach Fallon said, they were very close, and as I wanted to call it, I wanted to be the guy who was on the mic whenever they knocked them off, and I was excited. And from the get-go, I felt like the energy and rash was where it needed to be. I was a little worried about 10 minutes before kickoff because the weather was awful.
It was wild.
And then it just,
everybody waited to the last minute to come in.
It came together though, and it was electric, and it was everything you would expect an Owensboro Bowling Green playoff game to be, and especially one that's going to break a decade-long streak. And I thought, hats off to the kids. I mean, I said last week, it doesn't matter what's happened in the last 10 years, doesn't matter what's happened in the last 14 games. It only matters about what happens on Friday night, and that's exactly the way the kids play the game. I felt like they were flying around all over the place.
I think Diamond Glover immediately stood out. I listened back to the replay. We had to call his name 20 times on defense. It just seemed like it was almost unfair at times. He was getting through the offensive line for Bowling Green at will, and they were holding him at times. They couldn't even stop him. He was still getting through.
The one where he pointed at the official and said, he's holding me.
Mid-play.
Well, you're right, Ward. I'm thinking, just kind of reflecting real quick, probably at least 4 to 5, maybe 6 or 7 times where after the play's over, Diamond Glover's jersey's hanging off the side of his shoulder pad. Yeah. He got held so bad. So that's a good sign. I mean, for Diamond, and you look forward, obviously, we're going to talk about here in a little bit, to this weekend. That's good news for Owensboro, that Diamond's really stepped his game up to that level.
And Diamond did. He had just an unreal game. One of the best, most dominant performances I've seen from a D lineman since we started doing the show. That being said, I don't want to just focus and say Diamond, because I don't think there's a kid I said at the end of the game, I don't think there's a kid that suited up in red that we didn't call his number and he didn't play well. I mean, the Sorrells kid, Great House, Austin Goff. I mean,
Kendall.
Jaden Kendall.
I mean,
He's been a very pleasant surprise, and I feel like Jaden Kendall over the past 3 to 4 weeks, the last part of this season, I think going back to the Henderson County game when Diamond was out of that game and Kendall kind of was there in a starting role, man, you all of a sudden go, wow, who's 25?
Yeah.
Like, who is that kid?
He was putting some hits on some people out there Friday night.
Yeah, I felt like, and Coach Fallon said it, I think I said it at least 5 times in the game. Owensboro is bringing every hat to the football. Every hat, every time.
Yeah.
I mean, Tisdale would get out there to the sidelines and they would get a hand on him. He would spin free because you can't bring that kid down. And well, Austin Goff did a couple times, but most normal guys don't bring that kind of talent down with one guy. And you see him slow him up, and then the 3 guys would come clean it up. And it was like that the entire game. To me, I know Bowling Green they put 21 on the board. One was on that crazy pass at the end. The other one was on a turnover that kind of gave them short field.
Right.
They literally went the field maybe twice, and once they stopped them. I mean, Owensboro's defense played absolutely lights out versus,
And it's
very,
not like
very
Bowling Green
good.
played bad.
No.
Bowling Green came to play. I know, some of their fans on the message boards are talking about play calling this and that. Like,
I didn't think the play calling.
I don't know what they're looking at, man.
Play calling can look bad when a defense out executes you.
Here's the bad news, Bowling Green fans. Owensboro's better than you. Owensboro has passed you now.
I think it was.
I'm just being honest.
I don't know how you.
And we knew that coming into the game.
I don't know how you could watch the game last week. And don't get me wrong, Bowling Green did a lot of uncharacteristic things. I felt like in the game, I think they committed more penalties in that game they committed
to me,
since we started doing the program.
To me, that's characteristic for me because Bowling. The one thing I'm an old timer. I go all the way back to the '90s with Bowling Green. I mean, even early '90s, even as a kid watching Drew Hall and some of those guys play. The one thing about Bowling Green that has remained constant over all these years, if you get them flustered, they will lose their cool.
They did. They lost.
And I'm talking going all the way back to the 90s, and we saw it Friday night, man. They committed some really dumb penalties. Now, if that's where they're coming from, I can get behind that viewpoint. But the fact of the matter is, Owensboro is the better football team, and Bowling Green's lucky Owensboro didn't win by more.
Yeah, they caused that frustration.
I think Coach Wallace not being there for Bowling Green was seen big time on those penalties because you were talking about how they always got hot-headed and created penalties on themselves back in the day in the 90s. Seems like in the 4 years we've covered the Homer Show, they didn't do that when Coach Wallace was there. He kept them pretty level-headed and chilled out.
I think Wallace was the one out on the midfield instead of the play. He'd call his players back, and Wallace would be the one out there because we kind of had the running joke about Wallace being, we have the whining stuff. And,
but it paid off.
It paid off for him. Yeah, that's right.
But at the end of the day, man, one thing I did
great coach though.
He's getting it done. He might win 6-8 this year with a backup quarterback. I mean, and Louisville Trinity's dominated up there, and he is. We have a lot of respect for him. It's a friendly rivalry, but a lot of respect. Now that he's up there, I'd like to see him win it. Just say, hey, we told you we had the guy down here in Western Kentucky that was tough to beat all along. But one thing I thought about today, and he won, I think, the district player of the year. Fallon won coach of the year in the district, and Will Warren won district player of the year.
You can find a recap of all the winners, local winners, at homersradio.com right now. There is an article up about and highlights each of the 4 winners.
And the thing about it is with Will, like I don't feel like I talked about him at all during the game. It's because with Will, I think he's, in my mind, Will is so good that he's just going to go out there and put those numbers out there.
Right.
And that's not right for me to do that. I feel like Will deserves the respect. Like he's had an unbelievable season. I feel like we haven't talked about Will hardly at all because it's because we've seen him since he was a sophomore dominate, and it's like when he goes out and throws for 300, it's like, well, he was supposed to do that, Yes. And then that kid deserves, a mountain of credit for the Owensboro offensive turnaround.
I don't think what the average fan realizes is what Will Warren's had to do. Yes, he already knew this offense coming into it, but it's not exactly. It's probably different terminology. When you go from one team to the next, the terminology probably changes. It's like going from like Germany to Czechoslovakia. Yeah, they're right beside each other, but they're 2 different languages. So I'm sure some of the terminology was different, but also more so than that. Will had to get used to a whole new set of receivers, right? Guys that he had been with at Catholic, he'd been playing with since the 6th grade.
Sure.
Well, over at Owensboro, they got a lot of athletes, a lot of talent, but you got to build chemistry and rapport with those guys, and there's no shortcut to do that. You have to just go through that process and those reps and those games and those practices, and it's really paying off.
Yeah, I mean, he threw for pedestrian 295 versus Bowling Green for 4 touchdowns, and
in comparison, let me say this: in comparison, Gavin Spurrier, when they play Bowling Green, 80 yards passing against Bowling Green.
And Bowling Green's defense is legit. I mean, there's no doubt. He picked them apart. There were several times in the game where me and Ward talked about he'd wait for the underneath route to come open, very patient in the pocket, and he'd have something out in the flat wide open. You're like, throw it to him, he's wide open. But he knew what he had coming across the middle. He knew that underneath route was going to be there, and one of them was Monty on a big touchdown underneath. And Will has been fan. And you know, like when the ball came out of his hands, when it dropped back, it was just disappointment for me. But it wasn't like
it was a fluke.
I wasn't trying to pile on Will, but I was like, man, I gave that kid a little bit too much of a hard time. I mean, you know, it's pouring down, freezing cold rain, you know, and it's nasty. It's cold.
It snowed.
Outside.
It snowed Friday.
It's just nasty.
How about the job that the two receivers did stepping up for Tyron Hayden, Hunter Morris and Arion Phillips? Man, that Arion was out there balling out. You talk about a guy that had, in 2 years ago, he was leading the region in interceptions. Had 6. Actually, we kept getting the pop-up of the Red Devil of the Week from 2 years ago of Arion getting his 6th interception kept coming up. But that guy put in work and was ready to go as soon as his name was called, and you could tell he had put in work throughout the season, was ready to go.
That play where Will scrambled, kept it alive, hit Arion over the linebacker. Larion shakes one guy, dives into the end zone. Yeah, that's special. Special right there. Remind me of Arias a little bit.
And that's one of those throws up from Will where I'm like, don't throw that. And then he throws a perfect strike across his body. I've seen Brett Favre throw that same pass about 5 times in a Vikings uniform, and about 4 of them got picked off. So it's like, please don't throw it back across your body. And he throws a perfect strike. I mean, it was a beautiful play there for the touchdown. But if you notice this theme of this segment, we've mentioned so many different guys stepping up.
Right.
And that's the thing. And at the end of the day, it's a total team effort, man. I felt like the whole team just came together and did well. Austin Goff, 13 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. And you look at that stat line and you think, and Diamond Glover was the one who we said, well, man, he stood out. But you look at those stats, it tells you what kind of game Diamond Glover had when you look at Austin Goff's stats, and he put up those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I'll tell you another guy that defensively that had a whale of a ball game and nobody talks about it. Cameron Thompson.
Absolutely.
Maybe Kendall had a pretty good hit on an incomplete pass there, but when they handed off, Bowling Green was on the goal line. It was right before Austin Goff gets the sack, and they hand off to Tisdale going to the left. Cameron Thompson comes across the line and lights Vito Tisdale up into another planet. We talked about Austin Goff being the only one to tackle him. I think Cameron Thompson might have been the only one to tackle him. He tore, and you know, the matchup, the one thing that I was really intrigued coming into this game was Monty versus Vito. Right, Vito's the guy that he's the spark plug for Bowling Green, but he's the guy. He's got all the Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, you name it. He's been offered. We all up here in Owensboro feel like Monty's just as good, if not better. Right, he's just a few inches shorter. And what happens on the first touchdown of the game? Monty burns Vito on a wheel route to the outside. Warren lays it right on the money. Touchdown.
Beautiful
Devils.
ball.
Right over Vito Tisdale. Yeah. So, and again, I'm not taking a shot at Vito because Vito does deserve those offers.
Monty does too.
He is, but Monty does too. Yeah. And I'm just it blows my mind that, especially Western, shame on you. You should have already offered by now.
Yeah, and I think we've covered just about everybody there is to cover except Trey Green. and we haven't even got the Trey yet.
No, poor Trey.
I think
we talked about him being overlooked.
I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but if you listen to go back and listen to last week's show, I think I told you exactly how it's going to go down. I mean, pretty much word for word. Trey Green's going to have a solid game. Owensboro's front seven is going to dominate, and the Wallaceless Purples are not unbeatable anymore. And I think that all that stuff kind of came to pass. And at the end of the day, I was right on that one. Don't listen to the Catholic game, but I dominated the prediction on this one.
There's one other guy we haven't mentioned yet that might have made the biggest play of the game. Once Bowling Green, after that late fumble by Monty, came back and cut it to 7.
Wow.
They had an onside kick. Steven Stevenson makes an onside kick recovery. I don't know how he recovered it. It was a picture perfect. An NFL kicker couldn't kick a better onside kick than this was. It took 2 bounces and then jumped 10 feet into the air. Stevenson had to leave his feet and got hit and drove to the ground and held on to the ball. That was the biggest play of the game.
He got like, if you wrestling fans from the 90s remember when Goldberg would spear somebody, that's exactly what it looked like. He jumped in the air and got that ball, and it's like Goldberg came out of nowhere, and Stevenson just went, he straight into that turf, held on to that football.
I thought for sure when I saw that thing bounce in the air, I thought Bowling Green's getting this ball.
I did too.
if you remember correctly, they jump offside. They kick the first one. It goes right to the Owensboro player. Owensboro football, they jump offsides. They get to do it again. I told Ward, I said, you got to be careful, man. That gives him another chance on this tricky turf. That thing takes a wild bounce, and look out. And sure enough, it did. It takes about a 10-foot high bounce. Crazy goes bounce. Up and gets it and hangs on and puts it to bed.
I want to talk about this real quick. I know we got to move on, but that swing at the end of the game, Owensboro is up 28-14 with
should have ended.
5 minutes to go, and they're driving. I honestly think they were going to score again.
I think they were
going to score again.
They were demoralizing.
They were going to score again and win the game 35-14, and Monty just complete hustle. No, you can't fault the kid. You maybe obviously want to learn from that, take better care. He's stretching out, and when he brings the ball out to get extra yardage, it just falls out.
Yeah.
And I went back and watched it. I had it on video, and it was completely legit. He did fumble it, and so instead of being possibly at the bare minimum 28-14. It could have been 35-14. All of a sudden, a pass play. We're at one touch. You're talking about a swing. We talked about swings before we went on the air.
Oh, man.
That was one of the biggest swings I've seen.
That pass from Buchanan to cut it to 7 was one of the best passes you'll see at the high school level. Diamond Glover had locked in on him and was destroying him on the hit, and Buchanan hung in there and delivered a strike.
You've seen it 100 times in the NFL. The quarterback, he's got his arm back to throw the football. Diamond Glover puts an Everson Griffin-like spin move on the inside. I mean, beautiful spin move. Comes free, hits Buchanan right under the armpit as he's releasing the football. I mean, destroys him. And he throws a perfect strike. And that Buchanan kid, I know we're not Bowling Green folks here, and we can celebrate the victory now, but I'm glad that kid's gone.
Yes.
He is a genuine article at the quarterback spot. Yeah. He could do some small college some good, I think.
And one of the cool things about that play we were talking about with Glover putting that hit on Buchanan, right afterwards, it was Diamond that was helping him up. He was making sure he was okay.
It was great.
Guys that respect each other. Even though it was a huge rivalry out there, you can see they have respect for each other.
I said before the game, when we talked about him on the show last week, he reminded me he's a little bit taller Drew Hartz. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean,
to me, that's exactly who he is. He's athletic. And Buchanan's athletic.
He ran away from so much pressure. He could have been sacked. He was probably sacked, 5 or 6 times in this game, it felt like. And
he did little shuttle passes like Brett Favre.
Oh,
that shovel pass. How disciplined was Owensboro's defense to stay home for that?
A lot of time. I'm telling you, just all in all, it was one of the better defensive performances versus a high-caliber opponent that I've seen.
Owensboro coaching staff had them ready.
Yeah, they did.
They did a great job.
Shout out to Drew Hall. Shout out to Drew Hall there, man.
That's what I wanted to leave it with, was that the coaching staff, man, and we give all the credit to the kids, but I think there was some questions, I think, at the beginning, after the Catholic game. Are these coaches putting these kids?
That's what Coach Fallon said.
Are these coaches putting these kids in position to win, right? I mean, and you have to think that. And then now it's brutally obvious. I mean, they're absolutely putting them in position.
No more questions anymore.
I know. And I mean, the turnaround that this defense has made, and I talked about it at the end of the game the other night before we went off the air, for the coaches to adapt and to say, hey, what we thought was going to work in July and August maybe ain't working like we thought it was going to swallow your pride and go out there and change it and get it going the way it is now. They've only given up 12 points per game coming in that win streak, only 12 points per game in a defense that was kind of took to the woodshed versus Catholic. I think it speaks volumes of the coaching staff. And Coach Fallon said, earn yards. I mean, they got to the 1 yard line so many times. I know I said it at least 5 times on the broadcast. Owensboro's making them earn every inch. I mean, it seemed like every time Bowling Green would get hit, Owensboro would bring an extra guy, hit him harder, and every inch I felt like Bowling Green was really having to struggle for, and that made a huge difference, I felt like, in the second half of the game, and Bowling Green kind of felt it too, I believe. Now let's go ahead and get to our Greater Owensboro Realty Red Devil of the Week, brought to you by Darrell Vanover, who was listening to this game in the Charlotte airport.
He was.
Getting the big win, supporting his Devils. You can call him or text him at 270-315-0354, and the winner is going to be Mr. Diamond Glover. With one of the more dominant performances I've seen on the defensive line. When that kid's locked in, there ain't nobody blocking him.
We was saying last year in the first half against Bowling Green, he was dominating them. Remember, he wasn't able to return for the second half of that one, and he showed out on that game, and he was stronger in the second half of this one as he came out with just an immense amount of energy, and he was just from the opening snap, he really set the pace.
Yeah, Diamond was special, man. That was the performance we've been waiting for, and I almost feel like now it's taken to this point. I feel like Diamond Lyman's starting to get in his groove now. Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
Bad news for Gavin Spurrier. That's what I can tell you right now. The old ball coach better get him ready because I tell you, Diamond's coming to town.
Steve better bring the old advisor down to Bowling Green this Friday night and say, "Hey, Gavin, I'll tell you what we're going to do here, Gavin."
If he plays as well as he did against Bowling Green as he does against South Warren, he can at least neutralize what Lacey does for South Warren because he was playing at that level.
That's the matchup I can't wait to talk about. I was wanting to go into it. I saved it because I was like, if I know it, we're going to talk about. But yeah, that Ward just hit the nail on the head. I can't wait to talk about that.
That was just one of the all-time fun ones. I mean, it's good to see a streak like that in. I was glad that we were be there. The homers lasted long enough to see the streak come to an end versus Bowling Green. Let's move it on now to the shocker of the night, in my opinion. I know Owensboro Catholic folks probably aren't listening tonight, but hopefully they can let it sink in and come back and celebrate a good season. Murray 41, Owensboro Catholic 38, and a game that started. I mean, last week, if you watch, I talked about being dead on predicting the Owensboro game. I thought in the first half, I was like, man, I'm going to look like a genius tonight because Catholic jumps out 26-0. I'm thinking they're going to run and clock them in the first half just like I thought they would. And then we check the score again. It's a one-score game, and Catholic's just clinging to the lead at halftime.
Yeah, it seemed like it came quick, too, and it was almost like we had kind of put it in the books that Catholic was moving on. It looked like it was going to be a running clock situation. Then you check back a quarter later of our game. Once the quarter comes to the end over there at Rash, we jump on the Twitter machine, and all of a sudden you got a 2-touchdown game.
I remember checking the score and thinking, wow, all right, Catholic's going to win. Now I just hope Owensboro can hold on so we can have 2 regional final games to talk about on the show Monday. And then we go, it gets Harry over there at Rash. I'm checking again, and somebody says Catholic's down 11. I was like, nah, these guys don't know what he's talking about.
He must have flipped the score.
Got somebody done told him something dumb. They don't know what he's talking about. I didn't check it. I just thought the guy didn't know what he was talking about.
Just wrote it off.
Well, then I got a text from somebody who would absolutely know and said, hey. And I was like, oh, my God. And I checked it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe the turnaround.
It's one of those playoff deals, man, where when it starts snowballing on you, it's hard to get it turned straight. And the momentum is an absolute real thing. And Murray started rolling downhill, and Catholic, they were banged up. They were without guys. And
the concussion to Vaughn maybe.
I think that's the big thing. And not a lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people were saying, why wasn't Vaughn in that game? He was out with a concussion. I don't think a lot of people knew because he wasn't physically injured to where he was probably on the field and grabbing his leg. People just thought he wasn't getting the carries. He was out with a concussion. I got news
for you. There ain't no coach going to keep Vaughn Williams on the sideline if he's 100% healthy when the game's going away from him.
If he's 30% healthy. But what people don't understand about concussions is every team has a training staff, and some of them are OSMO trainers, some of them are Owensboro health trainers, but every team has a trainer on staff. And if they do concussion protocol and you do not pass concussion protocol, it is no longer up to the coach.
No,
it is no longer up. It's no longer up to the player. It's no longer up to the parent. It's no longer up to the president of the United States. You do not play if you do not pass concussion protocol.
Yeah, and
it's that simple.
And they were without Hogg in the game. Yaya got hurt on the first play of the game. Yeah,
Yaya got hurt on the first play?
I talked to Ben Hardesty.
He didn't play versus South Warren either, so he must have got banged up.
He was banged up late in the season. You're talking about multiple guys down for the Aces, and at the end of the day, man, it was the Hearts and Mills show trying to hold that thing together, and they did a great job. They did make a run to get back to within 3. Had the football. Me and Ward jump in the truck. We rush over there. I hit every stoplight on the way to Steel Stadium. They're trying to get me to miss the end. I get over there to watch the end with Nick Blair. Me and Nick Blair standing on the fence watching the ending. And the Catholic had a big pass play down the middle. Would have put him in Murray field about the 40-yard line or so with a minute to go in the game. Only one timeout for the Aces. Right. They're in great position. Right. Holding penalty. Brings it all the way back and negates the big gain. And they get to fourth in about a half a yard. And couldn't pick it up because, they don't have – all their backs are gone. Who's going to carry the football?
Was Noah Todd still in the game at that point?
Yes, Noah Todd was still there.
He had like a 69-yard touchdown. Talked about how it was the Mills and Hart show. Noah Todd stepped in on offense and it did work.
I wonder where Noah Todd was on that last play. That's what I was confused. Well, I knew Buckman's a decent-sized back, though. He's not a small guy. Obviously, Vaughn's hurt, at that situation. I knew at that point Vaughn was hurt because why would Vaughn not be in the game on fourth and a half a yard? But I was kind of surprised maybe Noah Todd wasn't a fullback. But also, if a lineman had to come out, Noah Todd would have been a guy to fill in there for a lineman spot, too. So I'm sure it was a hodgepodge. It was a mass unit, I'm sure, there at the end because I know Coach Morris, and Coach Morris would have absolutely had done that if he'd been able to.
And at the end of the day, 4th and 1, you think you're going to pick it up almost regardless of who you got back there. You think you're going to pick up a yard.
And I feel like Coach Morris has taken some heat, and I'm going to say Jason Morris has done a great job. I mean, objectively, however you want to slice it, he took over a football team, with a new coach, obviously inherited a lot of talent, but he did win a share of the city-county championship.
Yeah, and they made a run towards the end of the year.
He beat Owensboro by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And
everybody remembers how it finishes. That's the problem. And I think Aces fans that didn't have one negative thing to say about Coach Morris, on social media now are acting like they've known all along, and it's like, give this guy a calm down a little bit. It's playoff football. And like Coach Fallon just said it a minute ago, lots of times fans and media, I guess us, don't like to look at that. Murray wants to win that game too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their seasons, they got seniors too. They're out there trying to win.
Dudes. And Murray's always got some dudes.
And Catholic should have won the football. They had no business losing the game. But that being said, like when it gets sideways on you, it's awful hard to put that genie back in the bottle. And I tell you, I was there. I was at Steel Stadium, and I saw that they had about 3 sections of bleacher over there, yellow and black, and they were fired up. I mean, they were rocking. I heard the crowd.
I was listening to Ben Hardesty and Mr. Clemens on the Catholic Sports Network. They were talking. They really made a remark there toward the end of the game. The Catholic side was really light.
Yeah, and it was bad weather, and you got us to get out and support these guys.
You got to get out, man. You
can't say, I'll get them next week when they play Mayfield.
I think that's what it was. I think a lot of people overlooked the game and thought they would just be there for the Mayfield game. They thought the Murray game, it was going to be a running clock, and they'd be out of there by, it would be blowout by 7:30, and they have no reason to go out in the cold and the rain and the weather and put it up. They just be there at Mayfield, and that's not what happened.
So let me do a little calling out here, Aces fans. You want to sit there and call Coach Morris out, right? But then you don't show up to the game in full force.
That's right.
Okay, so if you're not all in, you can't be the one there. You can't be there to criticize, right?
That's right.
Coach Morris did a great job. Again, an upset loss to Murray. Coach Edge has been upset by Murray before when he maybe had a better team, right? So you got to give Coach Morris a break. I mean, at the end of the day, what did we say with Darrell Catholic in this game? Turnovers.
I didn't think anything with Darrell.
but we said,
I think me and Steve both said 3 touchdowns running clock.
Right.
Yeah.
But we said if Murray was to have a chance,
it's turnovers.
There would have to be turnovers, and that's what happened.
Back-to-back turnovers.
Vic Evans might have said turnovers.
Back-to-back turnovers.
Because in the past, you got to go with history a little bit on that. In the past, when Catholic has been upset by Murray, it has been those turnovers that's derailed the Aces when they were clearly the better team, and it's frustrating. I remember Coach Edge talking about how frustrating it was.
I called a couple of those that were just maddening.
And you think Coach Morris is not frustrated? Like you think he's frustrated that Vaughn got a concussion, that Yeye got hurt? I'll tell you, I guarantee he ain't slept more than 12 hours since Friday night.
Man. He's sitting there rewinding that thing in his head 100 times over and over and over again.
Another criticism I've seen of him is why was he throwing the ball whenever they were up so much? Because every running back he had was out. What's he supposed to do?
Well, not just that, but that's what Catholic does.
That's what they do, yeah.
And they got up 26-0 throwing the football, and you're going to put this team away throwing the football. I get it. You don't go conservative mode when you're up 26-0. You go
in the second quarter, right?
Put the game away. I mean, I don't agree with that take either. I mean, what are you going to do? Go strictly to the ground at that point? No, that's not what Catholic does.
Especially when your first 3 on your running back depth chart is out of the game with injuries.
Things happen.
Not playing.
I think you stick with what got you there. And again, I think the turnover bug is what derailed Catholic. I really do. You take the turnovers and penalties are a great equalizer in football. You on the wrong side of the turnover and penalty battle, funny things can happen in a football game.
Yeah, and it was a great season that ended not the way they wanted to. Bad taste in their mouths for sure. Let's go ahead and get to our St. Maximilian Kolbe Catholic booking gift. Ace of the year. Yeah. It's going to be Mr. Von Williams taking his talents to the University of Louisville.
The Petrino-less Louisville team.
And I was kind of trying to figure out how to say that. From what I've been told, still on the Louisville bandwagon. Of course, you never know who's going to come in there, but as of right now, still on the Louisville bandwagon without Bobby Petrino is Von Williams. What a fantastic year Von had this season. I feel like it was a little bit of a resurgence, and I said it at times. I think we kind of forgot about him. I kind of forgot about him a little bit after last season, but man, he came in and just really picked it up. So hats off to Mr. Von Von Williams. He had over 1,200 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, also 226 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns, 26 tackles, and a pick 6 to top it off there for the Owensboro Catholic.
It's kind of bittersweet because if you don't love his dad, Jock.
Oh, man.
If you're a local football guy, you know Jock. You know his dad, right? He's been to Apollo games back in the day and Catholic games now, but he's always just a fan. I've seen him milling around at Rash Stadium before.
Oh, yeah.
He just loves football. He loves the local kids. He loves football, and it's bittersweet because Vaughn is the last of his kids. Now, obviously, he'll have some grandkids down the road in a few years.
I watched Little Jock, and James at Apollo with Big Jock on Friday nights every week, man.
Yeah.
Like, we just stalked that track together all the time. And that's when I talked about the memories of Eagle Stadium. That's one of the things I remember is hanging out with Jock every Friday night watching football because nobody really break it down. Yeah, I tell you what, a lot of the knowledge and stuff I get from talking about some of these games came from standing next to Jock on Friday nights.
With no Homer show back then.
No, that's right. There sure wasn't. We do it live from the track every Friday night.
That's right.
But yeah, hats off to and Aces fans, man. Take it easy. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Give Jason Morris a little bit of a break.
I'm not hearing it.
Nah, a big win over Owensboro. I know it didn't end the way you wanted to, but I still think the train's going in the right direction. We'll see the Aces again next season as we'll move it on. Now, speaking of Mayfield, Mayfield 55, McLean County 20. And McLean County went down there, and what was it, 20-0, I think, to start the game. And then McLean gets on the board, makes it 20-6, able to run the football around a little bit. Noah Baldwin finished the game with 136 yards, 180 total yards. He had a big catch in the game as well. 2 total touchdowns. It was Jacob Miller that got the rushing touchdown to cut the lead to a 2-score game at 20-6. Andrew Munster with the big game on the defensive side. He has all year. 8 tackles and a sack in the ball game. But at the end of the day, McLean goes down there and battles, and it is what it is. I mean, what a great season. I think this is one that obviously you never feel good after a loss, but I think you're like, okay, it's a good reflection type of deal after the game there. What a phenomenal run the senior class has had for the McLean County Cougars.
Whenever there's a matchup like this where you're taking on a state power where you're obviously outmatched, we always say we want to see our teams compete and go out there and not be scared of the teams. McLean was not scared of Mayfield. McLean went out there and they had opportunities even before you talked about that first touchdown that Miller scored. They went out there at the beginning of the game and were moving the football. They were not scared of Mayfield at all. You can see they put some points on the board. They didn't go out there in one of those scores where you're looking at Twitter and you're like, 66-0 final score.
Right.
This is a very respectable score right here. 55-20 is very respectable to Mayfield, who's a state power.
Actually, before we went on the air, about a half an hour, I realized the game was up on YouTube, and I said, man, I'm going to watch a little bit of it before we go on the air. And I got to be honest with you, man, like it kind of didn't play out in my mind, I guess, like I thought it did on Twitter. McLean County moved the ball in Mayfield. They would just do random things. There would be a penalty here, or a 3rd and short stop here, or a botched a handoff here, and a personal foul. Just like these little things that happened at the end of the game. If McLean County just could have avoided a few of those mistakes, they could have kept that big monster at bay a little bit.
They could have had Mayfield sweating in the fourth quarter, and then you don't know what happens.
Exactly.
That's kind of what we talked about last week. Yeah,
that's right.
And we also talked about to get in that position, they would need to play extremely clean, like almost perfect football to get in that point. That's hard to do, especially in an environment like War Memorial, which is
in the weather
one of the
that was
most
going
storied
on.
places to play high school football in the nation, not just Kentucky. I'm talking the entire nation.
Oh, yeah. Mayfield's a top 10 team in the country in all-time wins.
And I don't want to step on the Cougars' toes here, but I think just hearing that and knowing Mayfield, it upsets me a little more about the Catholic loss, because I really wanted to see what our aces, our team could do. Now, I think Hancock pushed them well. I think McLean pushed them well, but Owensboro Catholic's got, they're a little bit more balanced, and I would really have liked to have seen what the aces could have done at home. Not to go to War Memorial. They could have gotten a steal on a night, But that being said, they're awful banged up, too. But a healthy Owensboro Catholic obviously could do versus Mayfield.
And to go on to that, I'd like to see what McLean would have done against Murray. I think they matched up better against Murray than Catholic did.
I'm not going to debate you on that one.
Yeah.
Because Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the matchup would have been. You're right. If obviously if you're McLean, in retrospect, you'd have liked to win that game at Steel Stadium.
Whenever you mentioned Catholic there, I thought you were going back to you were hoping that McLean was going to get that win, so you could have seen the reverse of this right here, because I think they matched up better.
That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Could have ended up with a McLean Catholic semi there.
I know that's all like crazy, but like I like to be crazy from time to time. That's fun to think about how that would have been. And I'm like you guys. You go back to that regular season matchup for McLean and Catholic. It was just a few mistakes that derailed McLean in that game. The game was a lot closer than what that score indicated. Then it dogpiled on them there.
Right, and when you have an offense like McLean and you get hit in the mouth 2 or 3 times, it's very difficult to stay with what you do. I mean, you can't stay with what you do because you have to do something to try to get back in the ball game. And
they couldn't stop Catholic, couldn't get off the field. Catholic picked up fourth down conversions in that first quarter that just took the wheel from them.
What a phenomenal season McLean County's had. I mean, you think about this program. You think about this is the first home game they had hosted this year since 2008, the first time since 1993 that McLean County had advanced to the second round of the playoffs. And you want to talk about a program and a fan base that if you want to talk parentally over the years has had maybe a lack of success in football in the big picture, to still be that rabid, to still be that on board.
It's awesome, man.
Could you imagine McLean County with like a run to a state championship?
It would be.
They would be like.
I might have to quit the homers and join the Cougar Parade, man, because I don't think I'd be able to not be there every Friday night. I think I'd have to be there for it because it's something special. I mean, I talked about it last week, and that it's awesome. I mean, and I think they're all happy. I mean, I haven't seen one negative thing, and Coach Wagner deserves, a ton of credit. I mean, what he's brought to this program, and I think it really starts with what he does in the weight room and how obviously McLean County has their disadvantages. I mean, when they're talking about taking on a Mayfield or taking on an Owensboro
rural
Catholic,
school,
and what do you do? What can we do to overcome our disadvantages? We're going to be the strongest team out there. We're going to outwork you, and that's exactly what they do. I mean,
out-hit you.
They're going to hit you hard every time, make you not want to go near another defender. And at the end of the day, that's McLean County football.
Yes.
I think when Coach Wagner took over that program, they hadn't won a game. They had no identity, and he's brought an identity now.
I've forgotten about that.
Bam! I mean, he hadn't won a game.
They hadn't won a game.
No,
That's
won
right.
a game.
God. We had him on one of the very early Homer shows. Remember that? Talking about that.
And I tell you
I remember Steve was coveting Coach Wagner there for a while.
And I tell you, McLean County for the Apollo job, and McLean County folks were after me, dude. They did not like that at all. It was like hitting a beehive.
Stay away from our coach, Steve.
Get away from
Coach Wagner. Cougar Nation.
Yeah, and that's kind of and that I would tell Coach Hattel from Breck, that's the kind of same vein I see.
Yeah.
What is coming down the pipe for Breck is what Coach Wagner's built there. And, we have great coaches. We're blessed.
We really are, man.
I think talking about Coach of the Year. I don't even.
This is the first year I think it's really sunk into me how good some of these coaches are.
Yeah.
Because I've always been a fan my whole life, and I've coached youth sports for years now and whatnot, but it's not the same. To see what these guys do behind the scenes, the time they invest into the kids, the program, the weights, the booster club, the scheduling, the field preparation, the jerseys, the pregame, all of that. People don't understand how much it takes to make a program successful. And you see Coach Brandon doing it at Davis County. You see Hawkins in his energy at Apollo, our city guys. You look out there and you see Coach Wagner. You see Coach Eubanks, who won the Coach of the Year. For his efforts. So we are blessed. Ed Smart in Grayson County, Hotel at Breckenridge County. We are blessed. DeMarcus Ganaway. How can I forget about DeMart? Hayes Browning has done some good stuff in Muhlenberg County. We are ridiculously blessed around here.
Yeah, I think there's not.
I left off some, and I apologize. You all are good.
I mean, all of them. I don't think I have a negative thing to say. We're just working hand in hand with most all of them, And
that ain't fluff, because if we have negative things to say about you, we'll say it.
Yeah. I mean, we've said it before.
We don't hold back on the coaches. Coaches get paid. We don't hold back on the coaches. coaches.
I love
we won't go after the
football
kids,
coaches.
but we will say what we say about the coaches. And that's why I want everybody to back off Jason Morris.
And that's being legit. That's being real. Yeah, absolutely. You need to give him a little bit of room there because I don't think it's right. But
think you can do it better? Go do it.
yeah, that's right. Go start because it's definitely not as easy as you might think it is. I'm just gonna leave it. I was gonna say something. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's go ahead and get to our McLean County sponsor, the McLean County Booster Club. Man, big thanks to those guys. The thing about it is this is the last week we're gonna be able to do the McLean County Cougars, our Player of the Year, brought to you by the McLean County Booster Club. But I guarantee you, a month or two from now, my phone's already gonna start getting texts about next year's sponsorship for the McLean County Player of the Week. But our Player of the Year is gonna be Mr. Jacob Miller, the Bruiser. It's Miller time. Got the shirt, wear it all around town, courtesy of Buddy Garrity Ford. Got the 810 rushing yards on the year. Got the
cowbells, man.
15 touchdowns on the ground. Had a touchdown reception, 17 tackles on defense. And what's crazy to me is it's hard. You have to just pick one? I mean, really? Noah Baldwin, Peyton Caraway.
We gave it to the entire offensive line last year. We couldn't just pick one.
De La Cruz. I mean, Munster. Go across the board. I mean, it's unreal. Corby Moore, the guys that have had impacts, and that's why, much like we talked about Owensboro earlier, the total team. When you get McLean County, you got a total team. And hats off to all those guys.
It's an easy group to get behind.
It is
very easy.
And we talk about
one we remember for a long time.
Talk about how fun it is and the culture there at McLean County on Friday nights. That's just going to get more kids that are watching that at middle school and even younger growing up. And they can't wait to get on the field.
If you're a middle
Coach
schooler
Wagner
in McLean County, you need to tell me you ain't hyped to try to be in that program.
What if you were a kid living on the Davis County, McLean County line?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, you might have to think about some stuff, man.
The culture over there on a Friday night.
Nice, man.
You want to be a part of. You want to be loved.
What borders
celebrated?
McLean? You got, I think, Muhlenberg borders McLean, Ohio borders McLean, and Webster.
Webster, yeah, that's right.
Borders McLean, and maybe does Hopkins County border?
I don't think so.
Hey, I'm telling you,
really testing me.
I'm just saying, man. If you're in the vicinity, man, you might have to do some soul searching.
Yeah, you can check it out on a Friday night. That's all I'm saying. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Inspector Gadgets. They've been sponsored our scoreboard all year long. Here, things will be changing in the coming weeks, obviously, as we transition into the winter sports, and we only got one game to talk about next week. So no more scoreboard, but big thanks to Inspector Gadgets at 503 East 18th Street. Give them a call at 270-689-0777. And the team that's kind of been the star, the emerging star of that scoreboard, is the Grayson County Cougars. They fell short this week. South Warren 55, which we'll talk about South Warren a little bit later. Grayson County 21. Just the defense of South Warren is starting to get known as one of the best defenses in the state of Kentucky. Held Grayson County somewhat in check till late in the ball game and kind of had their way with them a little bit.
Yeah, I saw some of this game, and it just every time Q got the ball or Bullock had the ball, it was literally just like vampires on blood, man. You know what I'm saying? They were just on him. Like he had no chance to go anywhere.
I'm going to interrupt you because Jalen Darty in the chat, he says Hopkins does border McLean.
There you go.
My geography.
Look at that.
Is not my Kentucky geography has embarrassed me.
Third region Wikipedia strikes again, man.
I'd like to apologize. I sat under in dispatch. I sat under a Kentucky map with all the bordering counties. I still don't know. That's terrible. Ask Brian Sumner. He's in the chat too. He's probably drove through several of those counties.
Well, the only reason I know that's because that's the way I go to Madisonville is go through McLean County across the bridge and that back.
I didn't know that it bordered it, man. I just dropped.
I think it had to because it actually goes right into Hopkins County.
Hey,
so.
those guys would be really excited to get over there on a Friday night.
Hey, I tell you, we take a couple of those Madisonville athletes and bring them over. Well, I tell you, no, I'm just kidding.
That being said, I don't know that anybody would even pay attention to it these days. But yeah, man, what a run from Grayson this year. We talked about the coaches. Ed Smart, man. What's funny is you go all the way back to the when you went to the press conference over there, and
he knew.
You knew. You came back at me. I think Grayson County may be on a little bit something because they have a little swag, and Bullock and company, man, they put on themselves as seniors, and of course with the super sophomore and Q McHenry. What a great year. That'll bring us to our Legend Sports Bar Cougar of the Year. That's Legend Sports Bar at 4431 Spring Hill Drive, just off Highway 54. We'll be there for our award show, which we'll have coming up in December. The winner's going to be Mr. Q.
You win.
getting it done at a high level, offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. We'll hit his statistics a little bit later on. We talk about some award nominations, but that's about all I got, man. It's crazy. This is going to be technically really our last flashback to Friday. That's at least multiple teams. We still got one more left.
I will say this about Grayson before we leave off. I think they reached their potential this year. I think
they exceeded it.
Exactly. I think that when you ask what can this team be, I think Grayson County fulfilled it.
Yeah.
A lot of times that don't happen.
That to me is what defines a successful season.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about a McLean County that really just, I mean,
they did
at the end of the day, they went as far
as they could go.
Yeah. And they put tons of wins on the board. I think maybe the only thing that McLean County would look back and get upset about was they had Apollo beat. And that's it. And I think they learned from that. I think that might have made them better.
They wish
stronger.
that game was 2 minutes longer.
That's it. That's the only possible thing you could even.
And you said they learned from that game. They did. They lost that game because of extra points. They had a kicker that could kick extra points and 30-yard field goals the next week.
Edgar Rodriguez came right out.
Balling. Yeah, absolutely. What a year, man. And it's not over yet, which we'll talk about. Owensboro Red Devils go on the road. We'll be there this week.
We are there.
We'll have the Owensboro Red Devils all the way through Kroger Field.
Oh, okay.
We'll make that happen. I guarantee it. If the Devils can get us there, we'll get there to support them as well. So we'll go ahead and take a break and come back and talk about some awards when we come back here on the Homers Radio Network.
I've got my orange
B.F. Evans Ford in Livermore is the area's only dealer to win the Ford Motor Company President's Award based on volume and customer satisfaction for 22 years straight. B.F. Evans Ford has focused on our customers and our community for over 65 years. Why buy from B.F. Evans Ford? Big discounts, top dollar for your trade, hassle-free buying, and award-winning service. At B.F. Evans Ford, we treat you like family. Visit us in Livermore, Kentucky, or shop online anytime at bfevansford.com.
Welcome back to the Homer Show, and it's time right now for some award nominees for our Roads and Roads award show to take place out at Legend Sports Bar in December. That Roads and Roads, big shout out to them coming on board, sponsoring. I believe they'll be on for basketball too, doing some awards. And I love it, man. If talk about Roads and Roads, if you're injured in Kentucky car accident, denied disability benefits, receive free case evaluation from a Roads and Roads attorney today at 888-709-9329 or visit roadsandroads.com.
Yeah, I got to talk to Chris Rhodes this weekend, as a matter of fact, and I found out Chris Rhodes is an interesting attorney.
We had a conversation.
I had a little conversation. I found out he's a former athlete, a former college football player. I'm going to have a little article about that on homersradio.com over the next few weeks.
Pretty cool stuff, though. Really.
Very cool story. I had no idea, but keep you Homer Maniacs checking the website there.
That's right. Homersradio.com.
Homersradio.com.
Shameless plug.
What we'll do tonight is announce the nominees for the awards, and we'll have we'll announce the winners next week whenever we announce our 4 Heisman nominees and start the voting for it. But we'll start with the Breakout Award. The rule for this was pretty much somebody we weren't talking about going into the season that we were not knowing whenever we were doing our season previews. We didn't bring these guys up as big-time playmakers, at least for the positions that they ended up playing at.
Positions that they were playing at, right?
Yeah.
Because we had the first guy as a tight end on our all-gorilla team, and he ended up having 17 sacks as a sophomore. Logan Weedman will be our first breakout star candidate.
I'm thinking, man, this dude's going to catch probably like 60 balls this year. And then the next thing you know, he might be the best defensive end pass rusher in our area, and he's one of the best in the state. And talking about Logan Weedman, man, what a year he busted on the scene with.
He's unblockable at times.
He looked great out there.
He's a young sophomore.
And he's very disciplined, too. And not just a pass rusher. He just gets uphill after the quarterback. He reads the run very well, too. And, hey, he's just a sophomore. We got great sophomore class.
Yeah, we do.
His wingspan stands out to me. He looks like he's got an NFL wingspan now. He looks like he might have about a 7-foot wingspan, and he's, 6'6"? If he grows any more, he's just going to be unblockable.
I'm telling you. Coach Barker, if you're listening,
I was just thinking that. I know you always do that with football guys, basketball guys, or baseball guys. You're like, man, he would make a great tight end, or he would make a great defensive end. Now I'm the basketball guy. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take that guy and make him my center because he's going to get a a lot bigger.
Hey, legitimately, Logan Weedman, if he just came out and played, like even if he's not that skilled offensively, he'd be a matchup problem.
Yeah.
In the third region, this is a small third region this year.
He's got good instinct, so he would be a shot blocker for sure.
Your phone's going to buzz here in a second.
It's Barker.
Moving on now to Muhlenberg County, Mr. Winky Drake.
Yeah.
I'm all about some Winky, man. I like Winky. He's fast.
Yeah, you get the 1-2 combination there with Healy and Drake really busted on the scene. 773 yards, 9 touchdowns for Winky Drake this year.
I would have liked. I'm going to go back and look at his yards per carry because I feel like he just always exploded for big ones. You know,
And that's an unlimited work too.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's 2 games he didn't play in.
I want Winky to run some track. Winky, you better run track in the spring. I got to see what that 100 time looks like.
That's right.
Moving on to Landon Capps from McLean County, Captain America.
Talk about speed.
CAPPS, Caps.
That's right.
Is he just a junior?
Just a junior.
Wow.
He'll be back. Yeah, Landon Capps.
Him and Caraway's back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. I didn't realize that.
Genuine excitement right there, folks.
It's like yes.
Absolutely.
That's real.
557 yards, just part of the quadruple-headed monster that was out of the back, where you can just throw 9 heads on that monster if you want to over in McLean County. 7 touchdowns, 10.4 yards per carry for Mr. Capps.
And he'd take your soul with some of those homer special tackles he was delivering.
Absolutely.
I remember the one in the playoff game. It was a Brian Dawkins special.
Yeah.
That one was
Tell you what,
nasty.
man, don't write the Cougars off for next year yet, man. I didn't realize that.
I wasn't even starting to.
I'm excited.
Munster's back for him, too.
Yeah.
Jace Kessler will be our final nominee for the Breakout Stars. We weren't really talking about him at all. We were wondering who was going to step up in that place. And by the second week of the season, we were watching, what game was it? The Border Bowl?
Border Bowl,
We're like, man, that guy is out here matched up with these wide receivers from Memorial and doing a heck of a job at it. If he's able to hold this level throughout the year, he's going to be a baller. And that's exactly what he was the entire season for the Aces.
A Memorial team that's still playing.
Yeah, it's probably going to win another state
Probably going to win back-to-back state championships.
Yeah, if Jace Kessler was just about 5 or 6 inches taller, he would have been shut down corner that night.
Probably had about 4 picks that
Perfect
night.
Position all night long. He ended the season with 5 on the year, led the area there all the way up to late in the season. He also caught 2 touchdowns and had a fantastic year.
The first indicator to me with Jace Kessler is when I looked out in the field and I seen him wearing the number 2, and he literally in a helmet and shoulder pads, and the number 2 looked just like all the other number 2s. He's built exactly like the McGraws and all those kids that
His
came
last
through.
name was Ronnie.
Ronnie's, yeah. I mean, literally, I thought like Ronnie had came back and just put that jersey back on. No, it's Jace Kessler.
Yeah, and he wore it well.
Yeah, he
this
did.
season.
He represented.
So those will be our 4 nominees for the Breakout Star of 2018. Winky Drake, Landon Capps, Logan Weedman, and Jace Kessler. We're moving on to the Offensive Player of the Year. Started off with Drew Hartz from Owensboro Catholic, 2,300 yards, 30 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, only 30 touchdowns is only 5 picks is what stood out to me. I mean,
6 to 1 interception touchdown ratio.
It's not as much as Catholic throws. That is nice, man. I wasn't going there with it, but yeah, in 61% completion for as many times as Catholic put the ball in the air, I thought Hartz had an amazing year. And I mean, really the success that Catholic took from that Memorial game on into the rest of the season, a big part of that was Drew Hartz.
He's going to throw for 3,000 next year.
Yeah,
I guarantee you he's throwing for 3,000 next year. The kid's got it, man. He's athletic. He can throw the ball. He's smart. He can read defenses. I take him all day, every day.
And he was starting to hit the camps last year before.
Yes.
So I think his name this summer is going to be a hot one.
I
It's going to be a real hot one.
Moving on to Joey Cambron from Davis County, 2,800 yards passing, 35 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, and honestly, half of the season with Joey Cameron is without the services of Landon Newman, which opened everything else up in the passing game. So, basically the last half of the year, defenses knew Davis County was going to have to pass the ball to win, and Joey Cameron still almost puts up 3,000 yards. I know that Joey Cameron, maybe people feel like he's not getting enough love. I'm going to tell you right now, you go find somewhere else giving him as much love as we have. I mean, just point blank. I love Joey Cameron.
I do too.
I love turning.
We've compared him to Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre.
I'm going to tell you this.
What do you want from us?
I'll tell you this off the air. Completely off the air. We're texting we got a 3-way text that we get ready for the show and do. And Davis is legit mad at Joey Cameron for not getting his huddle highlight updated because he wants this kid to get recruited so bad because we want our guys to go do big things. We want everybody to see our guys succeed. And I can tell you right now, this kid can play college football. I mean, and not just at a lower level.
No, Division I.
Division I level football.
Yes. He can start for WKU Saturday.
Yeah,
I'm this Saturday. Yes.
Somebody needs to get in on the kid. And if you think that we've been backhanded complimenting to Joey Cameron, you don't watch the show.
You're not taking it the right way.
Listen to the show because I'll tell any college coach out there, this kid flips his wrist and throws the ball 60 yards. I mean, and people say, well, he had Tinsley. Man, there was games where he didn't have Marquell.
2 of these games from the season, he didn't have Tinsley against the stiffest competition.
He didn't have him versus Memorial last year either, and still put up 300 yards. And I'm telling you, Joey Cameron's a genuine article, no doubt about it.
He's the truth, man. And the reason is, obviously, I want him to get his huddle up so he can get recruited. I want him to get recruited. He needs to get his huddle up. And second of all, Joey, I just want to watch your film. I'm a football junkie. I won't sit around.
Throw touchdowns.
I think Marco poloed you last night. What was I doing?
Watching film. Sending me plays that Catholic was busting on South Warren. That's the truth. Yeah.
How late was it?
You said, watch Nick Mills right here take this dude to the shed right here. This is South Warren. He's just beating them up, man. It was like 12:30.
I'm about to get Ward on polo so I can send that stuff to Ward too.
Individual plays. I'm like watching Brian Balding on NFL Network with Dave Clark over here.
Moving on to another player that WKU's sleeping on, Monty Owsley, 712 rush yards, 10 touchdowns, 1,016 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns.
So we know why WKU sucks now.
Pretty much.
We got all these great players, and they ain't offered one of them.
Yeah, and this ain't fluff. This is not fluff.
It's not fluff at all, man.
This is serious. Like,
this is legit.
Cameron and Owsley both could go play there. Not just WKU that's sleeping. I feel like everybody's sleeping on these guys. I mean, it's just. Owsley, man, golly, this dude. I feel like when I called the game the other night, I felt like every time he would take one step away from a defender, he was going to the house every time, and that's a special kind of young man. I have not seen a talent with the ball in their hands like his since Justin Miller was here.
Yeah.
Talk about Vito Tisdale's got all the offers, and he deserves all those offers. Monty's more electric than him. We've seen him on the field now 3 times now that Monty's been at a varsity level that I've been at the games. 3 times. He's the standout player that's on the field for either team.
I think so, too.
No doubt about it.
I think he just makes a few more plays than Vito, and I think that's why kind of Vito maybe lost his cool a little bit in that game, because Vito, this ain't new, guys. I've been watching these 2 kids compete against each other since 7th grade.
Yeah.
And Monty always got the best of him in the middle school level, and they got to the high school level. It flipped in Vito's favor, and I think Vito felt it slip away a little bit.
He got mad and got ejected the other night.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, is what it is. It's true.
I mean, it's true.
Can't deny it.
And it's not shade because we think highly of Vito.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we think higher of Monty.
Moving on to our 4th nominee for Offensive Player of the Year, guy we think pretty highly of as well right here, only a sophomore. Darian Clay from Hancock County, 1,580 rush yards, 27 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I put this guy's number. He also threw a touchdown. He's just a sophomore.
Hancock. I'm just excited about Hancock, for real. I ain't even going to lie to you. I'm excited about some Hancock football.
Darian Clay putting some numbers out there.
Yeah, he is.
And that's what the defense knowing. And that's not taking I'm not trying to take anything away. Listen, I'm not giving these backhanded compliments. It's not taking anything away from the other kids on the team. But that's a defensive coordinator going to work on a Monday through a Friday. Working on how we're going to stop Darian Clay.
Yeah.
He ain't then most of the time.
Not.
And so
Mayfield didn't, so you're probably not.
He's getting 100% of the attention. He ran for 280 yards on Mayfield.
So you're probably not stopping.
That got the Cardinals fans' attention.
Yeah, it did.
They were like, who's this Clay kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, real deal.
Next nominee will be another sophomore doing work. Q McHenry, 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns on the season. I don't believe he played in 2 or 3 games.
Right, yeah, at least 3. I think that he didn't play in. He's just an athlete. I think when Q laces up the college boots one day, it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. I really, really like his ability and his physicalness. Now, and I'm not saying I think in high school he's going to do great on the offensive side, but to me,
1,500 yards and 21 scores.
To me, he projects as a defensive back.
Maybe special teams too as well, because you want to get that guy the ball.
He'll go start as a freshman on special teams.
Yes,
somewhere.
Because I think he's a guy that can physically match up with big receivers, and you don't get those big physical defensive backs like you very often.
Look at what he did against Marquell Tinsley as a freshman while he was playing in Ohio County. Played some of the best defense we've ever seen played against Marquell Tinsley. Speaking of Marquell Tinsley, he'll be our final nominee for the Offensive Player of the Year. Marquell Tinsley, 70 receptions on the season, 1,317 yards, 17 touchdowns, and a rush touchdown for the Panthers.
Yeah, we say it every week. He's the best receiver we've seen in our area, and it's true.
Can I say something about this that we haven't maybe said yet?
I'd love to hear something we haven't said about Tinsley yet. I've been talking about him for 3 years.
I think if Marquell goes to college, buys in completely. I mean, treats it like a job, right? You're there to do a job, to get your education, and to get better mentally and physically. I think in 4 years, I think Marquel Tinsley could play in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he could.
I'm not even like, there's no fluff. Listen, guys, no fluff behind that. That is straight from the heart. I believe Marquel Tinsley will play in the NFL if he commits himself.
I believe I'll get on board with that for sure.
Yeah, I think he's a traditional possession receiver that you can go out and be able to throw the ball to, and he's going to go out. He goes out and high points the ball. He's got an NFL caliber high pointing technique, and he's got hands and the size. I think absolutely he puts in the work.
We need to hook Keelan up, to have DeMarc hook Keelan up with him in the summer, so get him some work in.
Show him the work, get the work ethic there, and you talk
give him a ride down to Jacksonville and drop him off for a little while.
We're absolutely blessed. Look at the talent that's in those 6 guys right there, and there's so many other guys that could have been nominated in this too, but these are guys that could every single one of you look at every name on that list, and every single one of those guys could be playing on CBS on a Saturday
easily. I
mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's no fluff there. All those guys are D1 caliber players, and that gets thrown around a lot, but these 6 guys absolutely have it.
It's real talk.
Yeah.
Moving on to our Defensive Player of the Year candidates. We'll start it off in McLean County with Nicholas De La Cruz, 68 tackles, 11 sacks for the Cougars.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to call a sack. I get so hyped with the call a sack, and De La Cruz is a beast, man. I mean, anytime there's commotion around the quarterback, you're calling a McLean County game, it's usually involved with Nicholas De La Cruz. 11 sacks on the season, and what a year he had.
And he would always disrupt the offense to where you look at the numbers. He's got credited with these numbers that we said right here, but he probably attribute to another 15 to 20 for the defense, for the offensive line having to adjust to him and his teammates picking up sacks and tackles for loss. Moving on now to the Catholic ace Noah Todd, 77 tackles, 11 sacks, and a forced fumble on the season.
Speaking of said film study at 12 o'clock last night, I saw Noah Todd sack Gavin Spurrier.
Noah Todd sacked a lot of guys.
Yeah, sacked Will Warren twice in a row in the game.
I tell you, he had 11 on the year, so he had almost a sack in every ball game that he played, and he also had a forced fumble, 77 tackles. I felt like he burst back onto the scene. There's not that he didn't have a great year last year, but I felt like he emphatically had an unbelievable senior year, and he'll be right there in the mix for this award.
Moving on to Logan Weedman from Apollo, which we already talked about once, the sophomore, 17 sacks for the Eagles.
Yeah, and we already talked about him.
He's got an offer for a reason, folks.
Yes, a UK offer. We talked about D1, right?
He's got an SEC offer for a reason.
Right. Man, how much talent do we have? I didn't really realize, man. We just did the Gorilla team.
It's crazy.
It still didn't hit me until I started putting the numbers on the paper, I think.
And the sophomore class just continues. How about this sophomore, Austin Goff, 131 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, an interception that he took to the house for a touchdown, and 2 sacks.
Yeah, and he's a Mack truck. Listen, you do not escape the grasp of Austin Goff. When we called the game the other night, every time the player was out there and Austin Goff got a hand on him, he was stopped in his tracks. There's no forward progress. You might as well just blow. The referees should learn. Last week they didn't learn. They weren't blowing the whistle on time. They were letting them play way through the whistle. And when Austin Goff gets a hand, you just blow it because they're not going any further than that.
I mean, there's no point. What are you doing at that point? You should get somebody hurt.
The only thing you're going to do is get a shoulder block and then get the hands pumping in the air, because the ultimate linebacker was doing work this season. Unbelievable sophomore year.
That'll round out our Defensive Player of the Year nominees: De La Cruz, Noah Todd, Logan Weedman, and Austin Goff. Moving on to Coach of the Year, the guy we just heard from at the beginning of the program, Jay Fallon, Zach Wagner from McLean County, Ed Smart from Grayson, and Brent Hotel from Breck.
That's a nice staff.
Yeah,
imagine put all those 4 guys together.
Yeah, that'd be all right. We pretty much talked about them all at length right here on the show tonight. Even in Hotel,
can't go wrong with any of them.
No. They've all done it a little. They've all done it a little bit differently. Fallon kind of stepped into a monster program, and man, he's just adapted. I feel like. I mean, you can't tell me coaches don't learn. I mean, Mike Zimmer standing at the press conference for a Vikings press conference last week and tell you that he's still learning things. And it's like I feel like some coaches get kind of hard-headed at times. times and it's their way or the highway. I feel like Coach Fallon has just poured himself into adapting to whatever fits best. How am I gonna win? And I think he's done that this season.
Yeah, Jay Fallon in my book has been one of the best coaches Owensboro's had, and again, he don't want me to compare him to anybody, and I won't do that to him. But I'm just saying his ability to adjust when things aren't working. That's what good coaching is all about.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Zach Wagner, obviously, we talked about him building the program there, what he's done in McLean County winless program when he took over and got him the home playoff game, won the home playoff game.
By a lot.
Dominated.
56.
It was a party at Cougar Car Wash.
JV team put up 21.
That's right. Ed Smart, we're always big fans of Coach Smart on the program. It's funny, on my time hop yesterday, it popped up, our first Homer's Heisman. Hey, Grayson County can't say we didn't give them no love. They won our very first Heisman with Talon Gary. That's right. And Ed Smart was really the mastermind behind the offense. Still is, obviously, getting it done. And Brent Hattel, man, over there in Breck, obviously, they brought a lot of joy to the program on Friday night. Well, on Monday night. So we got to talk about it this year.
Friday nights, whenever you looked at the score, remember that? You looked like you opened a gift on Christmas whenever you looked at that Breck County win that one week.
Yeah, we were in McLean that night. Yeah, it was a nice win. And all in all, I mean, there's so many guys, too, that we could throw in a couple more, I feel like, and have some serious nominees here.
Team of the Year nominees: Owensboro Red Devils, Catholic Aces, Grayson County Cougars, and McLean County Cougars.
This book's not yet been written yet, right?
This is tough. I mean, I'm glad we're not picking them tonight because
no, we can't. We still got a game left on one of their schedules, I feel like, and maybe two more games before it's all said and done. The Owensboro Red Devils still got a ways to go.
You can make a case for any of those teams.
Yeah. You really can, and that's why they're all nominees.
That's why they're all nominated.
I throw Breck's near and dear to my heart, obviously.
Just in terms of a turnaround, sure, you could. You can make a case.
But like I said, it's stacked at the top. The turnaround Grayson made
is more,
McLean getting their first home playoff game, and Catholic, I felt like
set at number one for 80% of the season.
And they beat Owensboro and had a phenomenal regular season. I mean, so all in all, you can't argue with those at all.
Believe me, I try to talk myself any way I could to putting Breck into that list. Moving on now to one of the big awards of the night whenever we do our award show out at Legends this upcoming December, the MVP. How about Peyton Caraway from McLean County? 1,038 yards on the season, 10 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown, 54 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and an interception for Peyton Caraway, not even a senior.
Yeah, and he's a player of the year in that district there.
Yeah, for the Kentucky football coaches,
And he'll put up just as good numbers on the baseball diamond shortly.
Might be an all-gorilla team catcher.
He's strong, man. I bet you he hit some home runs if you get a hold of him.
Oh, yeah, no question.
He's been doing that for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Moving on now to Vaughn Williams from Owensboro Catholic, 1,251 rush yards on the season, 14 touchdowns, 226 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, 26 tackles, a pick 6 interception for Vaughn.
Yeah, it's sad for me that the Vaughn Williams era is coming to an end at Catholic. I feel like he's been playing there.
He has.
It feels like because he was so good so early.
Did he play as a freshman?
A little bit as a freshman, and then his sophomore
took over as a sophomore.
Unreal. I mean, hate to see it come to an end, but man, what a way to go out. I feel like a phenomenal year for Vaughn. I mean, just
his coming out party was his sophomore year whenever it was him versus Landon Board. Remember that? It was Vaughn Williams, Landon Board, Owensboro versus Catholic, and Catholic got the win as a sophomore.
Will Warren with the big pass at the end of the game.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. Man, how things change, right?
Yeah.
Moving on now to our third MVP nominee, Monty Owsley, 712 rush yards, 10 touchdowns, 1,066 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, 17 tackles on the season for number 5.
Yeah,
I don't get how people sleep on this kid. I don't get it anymore, man. I don't understand.
And I'll say the one thing we didn't say earlier, because offensive player of the year, but now in the MVP, when he shifted over to defense, I think that's when you started to see the change in the Owensboro Red Devils defense. And he was flying all over creation on Friday night.
He covers so much ground so fast. I mean,
he's the fastest man alive.
You think you have an opening, and Monty Owsley says, like Vito breaks a tackle in the backfield, gets to the corner. If anybody else except Monty Owsley's out there, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
He walks in. And Monty said, no, you're not getting it.
Vito ended up getting thrown out of the game, I think.
He got so frustrated by not being able to beat Monty.
And you're right. I think Vito fumbled that ball. There should have been touchback.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but there was a spot where Monty kind of batted the ball of his hands close to the end zone. Might have went through the end zone. It might have. I don't know. We didn't get to see the video replay of it. It was close.
Moving on to another MVP candidate, Darian Clay, 1,580 rush yards, 27 rush touchdowns, a touchdown pass, 54 tackles, 2 interceptions, a touchdown, or 2 interceptions for a touchdown, and 2 return touchdowns on special teams.
Yeah, 30 total.
That's doing work.
31 or something. What he accounted for on the season.
He's got some Owsley tendencies, doesn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. Just a sophomore.
54 tackles. That really
Dude, we saw him
out.
in the McLean County game. Flying all over the field, and him, Peyton Caraway going head to head.
That was fun,
and him meeting him out multiple times. I mean, they're both on this list, and both. It was kind of feel like it was like a one-on-one battle there for a little while between them two.
Moving on to another MVP candidate, Mr. Q McHenry, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, 32 tackles, and a pick 6 interception for Q on the year for the Grayson County Cougars.
Yep, just a sophomore.
Would have liked to got to see him play. I hated that they didn't get to come up this way. I'd like to check the old Q out.
Yeah, no doubt. Maybe next year. I think we might be in a district play with one of us next year. Yeah.
Now about this guy's numbers right here, our final nominee for MVPs, also one of our player of the months who is already qualified for the Heisman vote, Mr. Trevor Dyer from Brett County, 1,126 yards rushing, 13 rush touchdowns, 100 receiving yards, a receiving touchdown, 128 tackles, and 2 interceptions.
I feel like Ward's reading them and getting surprised as he's
not human. He's not human.
Yeah, Dyer.
That's why he's Iron Man.
When MVP comes to mind, I need everybody to keep in mind, MVP doesn't mean the best player physically, whatever. It means which guys on Friday nights go out there and mean the absolute most of their team week in and week out. And, man, it'd be hard to argue against a Dyer, for MVP. I know we're giving these away in a week, but, it'd be hard for me to vote against a guy. Maybe Darian Clay, looking at this list, the most valuable. Keep that in mind as you give us your opinions on social media. Keep that in mind. Valuable. Who's most valuable to their team? And Dyer, man, and all those games that Breck won, those big games, Dyer came to the party.
Who's the guy that if you took him off the team, they couldn't recover?
Right. And
that's why you see that all these guys are putting up big offensive and defensive numbers.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
They do it on both sides of the ball. A lot of them do it on special teams as well.
Yep. Guys like Dyer makes those middle school Breckenridge County guys getting pumped about playing for that program.
Well, they should be.
Putting that foundation down, and absolutely will be one to be remembered there in Breckenridge County.
That'll wrap up our nominees. We'll have the winners next week, and we'll also announce our 4th and final nominee for the 2018 high school Heisman. Right now, our current nominees are Mariano McKenzie from Apollo, Trevor Dyer from Brett County, and Monty Owsley from Owensboro. Tune in next week. We'll have our 4th and final candidate, and the poll will open right after the show.
And next week, how about some basketball previews next week? Got that lined up. Already got that done for Bluegrass Prep, so we'll talk about a little bit here on the program.
And it's our 5-year anniversar show.
That's exactly what I have written down. Happy birthday to us next week, as I remember we started that.
We need to get Derek Anderson back on, because he's
stirring the pot.
Yeah, he's getting a little feisty out there, man.
And Calipari about to go ahead round and round. Is Derek
That's okay
Anderson.
With Ward, though.
Derek Anderson,
my guy right there.
The opinion. That's your dude. Ward's the one who got him on the show, and now they're kind of on the same page with Calipari a little bit.
You remember the question we asked him if we thought that Calipari's team could hang with his teams. His reply was,
he just laughed.
Oh, no.
And no,
we were men.
I love it. Yeah,
oh my god!
Yeah, you can check that out. You search that beef. There's Derek Anderson, one of the greatest cats that ever suited up,
and a champion for the Miami Heat.
Got a pretty strong voice when it comes to Big Blue Nation. I feel like
he does.
As does Derek Anderson. But yeah, next week, 5th anniversary. We made it for 5. If we can get here next week, we made it for 5.
Made it for 5.
Don't jinx us. Whenever Steve
There's
said,
still people listening.
We still got
this crap?
We still got a road trip, man. Don't jinx us, man.
Friday night, Steve says, "Well, it looks like this one's about over." In that during the Owensboro game, when it looks like they're about to go up 35.
I said things are just going their way.
I said, I wish you'd shut up.
Oh, Steve, you're the reason Monty fumbled, man.
I think I might have been.
Oh no,
but they were strong enough to overcome me. Obviously, as you can see, the hoodie hoodie that I'm wearing, the Minnesota Vikings hoodie here, I've definitely it's seen my share of collapses.
You've seen more than anybody should ever see.
Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come back and break down the moredeals.com game of the week. We're going on the road this week to support our Red Devils down at South Warren when we come back on the Homers Radio Network.
F. Evans Ford in Livermore is the area's only dealer to win the Ford Motor Company President's Award based on volume and customer satisfaction for 22 years straight. B.F. Evans Ford has focused on our customers and our community for over 65 years. Why buy from B.F. Evans Ford? Big discounts, top dollar for your trade, hassle-free buying, and award-winning service. At B.F. Evans Ford, we treat you like family. Visit us in Livermore, Kentucky, or shop online anytime at bffevansford.com.
Welcome back to the Homer Show. Give a shout out to Dude What podcast hanging out at the Brian Sumner.
What is up, Dude Whaters, Duders?
He is building the studio with his bare hands. You know, when I think of Brian Sumner building a studio, him and Jim Miller building a studio, former Bears quarterback Jim Miller, by the way, former UFC fighter Jim Miller, who lives in Evansville now, on the Dude What podcast with Brian Sumner. I imagine like those old William Regal real man's man.
Oh, yeah, with the helmets and
the hard hat, you know, and
he's a man,
the flannel shirt, and he's out there. He is building this thing from the ground. It's almost complete. And when the holiday season's done, Do What podcast will be back in the flow with that. And, you know, you can still check it out.
They had a great Halloween show that just posted.
Yeah.
You can go to our website at homersradio.com and check those guys out. And
I try not to promote them too much because I'm afraid they're going to overshadow it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're pretty good. And
they are really good.
If you like movies, you can listen to their podcast. You're going to be very entertained.
We're fortunate to have them because they're way more talented than our network should have.
Man, I tell you, we could put a group together with the sports guys and Hurt and I feel like if we can get somebody, Mark Cuban or somebody to like just pay us, we could probably throw together a pretty doggone solid radio network. Probably put ESPN and Fox Radio out of business.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, it really wouldn't be.
All they say is the most outlandish, dumbest things possible to elicit a reaction from fans that, why would you care? Like a Clay Travis, why would you care what he says?
You said his name.
He says the same things over and over and over again until eventually he's right. And then he acts like he knew it all along.
That's right.
Well, you said
it's
it.
like me in the opening statement when I was talking about the Owensboro prediction. I nailed it. Oh, yeah. What about the cat? Oh, yeah. Sorry. We won't talk about that one. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the big game coming up. We'll be on the road down the Natcher Parkway, heading down to South Warren, where our Owensboro Red Devils will be coming to the house to take over down there, courtesy of the Donmore Auto Team. Without them, wouldn't be possible to get down there. To shop over 13 brands and 1,000 vehicles, visit moredeals.com to see the More Advantage. Best value, transparent, and upfront. That's moredeals.com. 10-2 are the Devils on, 8-game winning streak now? Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Math very well. They were 2-2,
because they were 2-2.
Yeah, 8-game winning streak. Taking on South Warren, who hasn't lost this year. 12-0 on the season. They are quarterbacked by the old ball coach, Mr. Spurrier, former Gator head coach, former South Carolina head coach. Gavin Spurrier is a quarterback grandson, right?
Grandson of the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier.
Steve Spurrier.
Old ball coach, Steve Spurrier. That's right. That's right. I got some play. We're going to chuck it around a little bit, and Kentucky's got a good punter.
That's it. Yeah, and he's telling Gavin to watch out for Diamond Glover. That's right. Absolutely what they're watching tape right now. Pooping their pants a little bit seeing Diamond Glover on film, and 2,000 passing yards, on the season. This is what sticks out to me, though, for Spurrier. 33 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Not a lot of mistakes made by South Warren team. His favorite targets, Bush and Gallagher, they combined for 1,100 yards, 15 total touchdowns. But I'll tell you, Spurrier spreads it out. You look at the stat sheet, 3 other guys have caught 4 touchdowns. Not just those two. So overall, you've got, 5 guys on this team that have caught 4+ touchdowns on the season. Pretty solid work from Mr. Spurrier.
Yeah, you have to guard the whole field against
and
them.
10 guys total have caught touchdowns. Yeah. So you're talking about a guy who just distributes it. We saw that last week with Buchanan, obviously. He did the same thing. But, man, Spurrier brings the A game in the passing game, and if they want to hit you on the ground, Cameron Harrison right at 1,200 yards on the ground, 17 touchdowns, so a very capable back as well to bring a balanced offense. We'll talk about the offense for South Warren first. I know you've been up by the midnight oil, scouting South Warren and getting ready for this ball game. What do you see when you see South Warren on the offensive side of the football?
I just see a lot of solid skill guys. Obviously, the running back is dynamic. He's a guy that if he gets a step on you, he can take it to the house, right? So, you got to be cognizant of that. And you think about South Warren, you hear the name Spurrier, and you think pass, right? Steve Spurrier, Gavin Spurrier throwing the ball all over the field. It's not exactly the case. South Warren really likes to hit those intermediate. They love the slants, okay? And then they will take their shots. They'll get you on the slants, they'll do some handoffs, and then they'll take their shots. They take their shots very strategically and very almost planned out. They look for that right moment when they feel they got the defense in the right spot. Then they get their one-on-one matchup, and then they throw it deep. But what South Warren really wants to do is establish the run game. And really, so far, there hasn't really been anybody that's really shut down or slowed down South Warren's run game to the point where South Warren felt like they had to pass. South Warren's 12-0 because they're extremely balanced and they're extremely well coached. A lot of that, they're playing with a lot of confidence. They don't ever really feel out of their comfort zone. There was times in the Bowling Green game where I felt like the Purples put them in some spots, and then the receiver would make a big play and bail them out, right? So, that to me, what I'm looking for with the OHS defense versus the South Warren offense, the matchup is, can Owensboro make Gavin Spurrier and the South Warren offense a little uncomfortable?
They can.
Well,
I'm just answering your question.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's it. That's the name of the game. Make them uncomfortable. And I'll be interested to see the Devils' run defense versus the Harrison kid. Because I think that's where it always starts. You got to stop the run.
Sure.
If they're out there running for 6 yards a carry, Gavin Spurrier's job's going to get a lot easier.
A lot easier
because the pass rush is going to slow down. But if they're able to put them in down and distances like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, then all of a sudden you're going to see guys like Diamond Glover, Greathouse, and those guys pin their ears back, and that's when you can make Spurrier very uncomfortable back there.
So as great as everything I said, talked about how great this offense is, right? You want a chink in the armor, right?
Absolutely.
It's up front, right? South Warren's offensive line is not great by any stretch of the imagination. Matter of fact, they've struggled to the point where at times during the season they'll have to bring Lacey off the defensive line and put him on the offensive line if they're getting beat bad enough, or if somebody, they don't really have that depth along the offensive line. And the one thing about Spurrier is he's so smart and he doesn't really get rattled. He's able to make those plays, escape the pocket, or check down to a running back. So he's been put in some spots, and he's been able to get out of those spots. The question Friday is this: when Owensboro puts that pressure, can they force him to make a mistake?
Yeah, and like you said, he doesn't make many mistakes. 33 touchdowns, only 3 picks. That stands out as huge. Maybe not make him make mistakes, but if he's having the short arm of pass, or absolutely. And
dude, a half a second of thinking can change a whole play.
No question. And then I definitely think that the Owensboro defensive line will be able to get after him a little bit. They got to slow down the runs. That'll be where it'll start. And I think
I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah. This could be a game.
You want to talk about the other matchup, the defense?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll let you lead the way there.
I feel like Owensboro.
There's a lot to break down here.
Slow them down offensively. Obviously, I would say 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns in that vicinity. You probably.
South Warren was held to 3 touchdowns earlier versus Ravenwood, Tennessee, out of Brentwood, right outside of Nashville. They did win that game 21-0, so their defense did come through for them, but their offense was slowed down in that game, and I think Owensboro can do the same thing.
And their bread and butter, obviously, is the defense led by Mr. Lacey. I mean, these stats, folks, are unbelievable. Actually, absolutely, as advertised, 28 tackles for a loss.
He's going to Notre Dame.
He's going to my Fighting Irish, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 28 tackles.
Steve's getting a picture after the game one way or another.
I'm going to have to get a picture. Hopefully, it'll be catching him coming off the field with his head down a little bit, being upset that his career's about to start at Notre Dame. 28 tackles for a loss, 10 sacks. Man, 28 tackles for a loss.
He's the truth, man.
It's crazy to me. And you talk about their linebackers. Pete Cross, 104 tackles, 22 tackles for a loss from the linebacker across. Teague, 96 tackles, 15 for a loss. That tells me they got to play a 3-4 front, don't they?
Yeah, well, they do. They play a lot of 4 down, but what they'll do with Lacey, since he's so good and athletic, he'll play the defensive tackle, and sometimes he'll play defensive end, and then sometimes they'll just get completely crazy and they'll move him to linebacker and just have him do a running blitz. I mean, they almost like to toy with other teams with their defense. The front 7 for South Warren is really, really talented. You know, Coach Fallon talked about how Coach Brandon Smith's able to get those guys to fly to the ball. 11 guys flying to the ball, helmets at the point of attack. That sums up the South Warren defense. However, South Warren is not without their flaws. I mean, you know, as good as this defense is, they're susceptible to plays, you know, to the drag routes, to the plays down the seam. You know, if there's probably a chink in the armor, it's deep with the South Warren defense. You know,
I think the reason why that probably is because they're so used to getting pressure on the quarterback.
They never have to worry about it.
When they don't get home, that opens it up a little bit.
And we saw that in the first play of the game, or excuse me, second play of the game, Owensboro Catholic versus South Warren. Catholic in the first half did a phenomenal job of double teaming and chip blocking Lacey to the point where Harts could get some time and roll out. Owensboro Catholic hits the second play of the game for like a 75, 80-yard touchdown to Nick Mills. He got behind those safeties. So if there's one chink in the armor for South Warren defensively, it is probably their safeties. I think their corners are pretty solid, but the safeties is probably the attack point. And then, you know, you look at the linebackers. You know, you want to keep South Warren off balance. You don't want you want to stay ahead of the chains. You want them to get frustrated, get them uncomfortable defensively. Because if you're able to do that, you know, you could put this team in a position they haven't been put in yet.
Yeah, one thing I will add is the defensive back Bush. I know he's a great receiver as well. 7 interceptions on the year. So Will Warren will have to be careful. He got a ball hog back there, and 2 of those have gone back for touchdowns. If that happens on Friday,
he's a dynamic guy.
That'll be done. That'll be done. Though there can't be turnovers for points in this game. What do you think? The Devils got what's their prospects? Can they win the football game? I know. Looking at Bluegrass Preps, nobody's really giving them any chance.
Isn't that what they said last week?
They did. I feel like this week's a little worse though. I feel like they're saying it's South Warren by however much they won.
South Warren kind of crushed Bowling Green.
They did, yeah.
They did, and on paper they did. But if you go and watch the film,
it was pretty close.
If you go and watch the film, that game, the score does not indicate that game at all whatsoever. South Warren really hit a couple big pass plays in that game, and honestly, if you go back and watch the film, both of the times the receiver pushed off for the touchdown and got away with it. So they were very, very fortunate on those 2 big pass plays that they got against Bowling Green. It feels weird defending the Purples. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. Yeah. But I mean, hey,
you literally sounded disappointed in yourself when you took that sigh.
You're like, the eye and the sky don't lie, though, and I'm a film guy. So there's 2 ways to look at the game Friday night, okay? The first way everybody looks at a game is on paper. You look at the records, you look at the results, and you look at the stars. If you do that on paper, I think South Warren's a 2-touchdown favorite, right? At least.
I think they probably are 2-touchdown favorite.
But I don't look at games that way. I look at them through the lens of a film, literally through the lens of a film. And I've watched enough of South Warren on film right now. I've been able to skedaddle and find ways to be able to check them out. And what I see is a team that hasn't had their weaknesses exposed, right? Because of the inability of the teams they're playing to do that. Now, why is that, Clark? Well, because South Warren, for one, they're really good.
They're really talented.
They're not 12. They're not 12-0 for any reason. I just think that the way Owensboro's playing right now, we go back to what did we say last week about the Red Devils? If they can limit mistakes, they have a chance to win the game, right? I feel the same exact, after watching film on South Warren, I feel the exact same way this Friday. If Owensboro will play hard, play smart, do everything that they're asked to do, and limit the mistakes, I think Owensboro has a phenomenal shot to win this game.
What's your pick?
Well, you know what my pick is. This is regional championship.
He wore the Letterman's jacket to the stadium the other night.
He had tears in his eyes at the game end.
FILD all day. I really believe that Owensboro, I don't even want to say it because it sounds so preposterous, but when I watch the film, I really think Owensboro top to bottom maybe a little bit better. I'm telling you guys, I mean, the film.
I think a lot of people are sleeping on Owensboro because of what happened at the beginning of the year and last year. I think a lot of people just, oh, well, that's Owensboro. They're gonna automatically make mistakes. They're gonna do this or that, and I don't think they realize the kind of talent that they've got across the board. I mean, you're talking about Owsley and Glover and Goff. I mean, it's hard to match that kind of talent. I mean, you can equal it, but it's hard. You know, I don't. At the end of the day, I think Owensboro even last week they didn't play clean. I told you they probably could make a couple mistakes and still win. They did. I just think if they do that this week, it won't be enough to overcome. Right. The South Warren defense is probably the best defense in the state. Can Owensboro hit a couple big plays? If they can come out and hit a couple big plays and get them on their heels, anything can happen. I mean, they could turn the game upside down because this team hasn't been punched in the mouth all year. You said it. They haven't been exploited. I don't feel like they've been punched in the mouth all year. If Owensboro can come out, punch them in the mouth, they'll absolutely have a chance to win this thing going away. I just have to go by what at this point in the season trends. You know, we're 12 games into the season. South Warren's done this. They've got this body of work. Owensboro's done this. They got this body of work. I'll have to go with South Warren. I think it's going to be really close. I think I'll take South Warren by a touchdown, but I think the defense is just probably too much to overcome. I think Owensboro makes a couple more mistakes than South Warren in the game.
I think whenever you look at the game, it's going to come down to, like you said, turnovers. You can't have turnovers at all in this game if you're Owensboro. You got to play clean. You need under 5 penalties. They played pretty well.
They did play pretty clean penalty-wise
against Bowling Green that way, but they got to clean up the turnover issue. If the Red, especially without Tyron Hayden, because you said how that South Warren's susceptible to the deep ball. If Tyron Hayden was able to play, I'd feel a lot more confident about it. But with just 1 week, it seemed like the Red Devils had some people that could step up and take over for Hayden. Arion Phillips, like we said, did a great job. I think Flaherty might actually show up big in this game. Give me the Red Devils by 7.
Wow. All right. So I got South Warren by a touchdown, Ward Devils by 7. You'll take the Devils.
And I don't pick that. It's not really, for me, it's not a homer pick. It's a film pick for me. Like, I think Owensboro may be a little bit better, but like you said, the variable we can't predict is the turnovers.
I think if both teams came out and played the entire game, both teams had 2 to 3 penalties and no turnovers, I think Owensboro wins the game.
That's where I'm at. I really believe that.
I do think that. I do believe that. I think they'll shock people at how – I think they could win it by a couple scores. If they play absolutely clean football. If they play the best – if both teams come and play their absolute best – I think Owensboro.
I don't think the state realizes how good this Owensboro.
I don't think they realize how explosive the offense is.
If Owensboro didn't commit turnovers against Bowling Green, they had 0 turnovers against Bowling Green. They'd have run and clocked them.
It's possible.
But I will say you've got to keep them off of Will, because one thing Will he doesn't move around and throw real well.
That's a factor.
If they can get Will off his spot. And they have all year. You look down at tackles for losses and sacks, they are very good up front.
Good thing.
So the offensive line for Owensboro's got a big bell to answer this week, and if they can't do that, then it could get sideways on them.
I like the chances. I really do. Yeah. I think the chances. And one thing nobody's talking about with this game, and I'll leave this before we go off the air. This game is for a trip to the state championship. I'm telling you right now, I'm not trying to disrespect.
We're not going there.
I'm not trying to disrespect Fern Creek and Oldham County, okay, because that will be on the road for either South Warren or Owensboro. They would have to go to whoever wins that game. But I'm telling you, neither one of those two teams are beating OHS or South Warren.
They would be the much better team on the field. You still got to show up.
You still got to win the game.
That's right. Right, no question. This is a huge ball game.
Huge.
That's what we're telling you. And so beat out there. Even if you're just a high school football fan, come on down there.
I think everybody should come on down.
Support the Devils. Now it's all one team when we got left, and we'll ride it all the way to Kroger Field, hopefully, and we'll be there 7 p.m. courtesy of the Don Moore Auto Team. If you're not going to make it, be sure and tune in, because we'll have the broadcast for you right here on the Homers Radio Network.
Remind you to follow at Homers Radio on Twitter and Instagram. Find us on Facebook, Stephen Brandon Clark, HomersRadio.com, and our YouTube channel, Homers Radio Gorilla Style.